Let's jump into case study number 2. This one has to do with a workplace design solution. So I'm excited to hear
Yeah.
about that. Go ahead.
So this one is really interesting. This business very much started as a user or a very, very small SME or educational SaaS product and platform. And it basically accidentally realized there was an unmet need in enterprise, but they weren't looking for that when it actually happened. And that what they could have done is one of two things. They could have done what most other businesses do, realize, oh, here's something quite interesting. We have one target audience, and we could actually just repackage our sales and marketing, change a few words, provide a few different changes in the platform, and abracadabra, here we go. And they held back. Miraculously, they held back from doing that. And they really thought, we have discovered an unmet need and we could develop an enterprise solution in response to the growing demand. But if we do this, we have to actually think about what are the advanced requirements, what are the features, what does customization, how much does this change our business, and does this distract from our business, or does this actually grow it in a really nice symbiotic way? So they didn't just expand the product, they actually crafted a specific solution around the enterprise business. And that was very much, rather than thinking, well, let's just go and talk to them, they spent a lot of time around the job to be done methodology, Christian Claytonson, and they wanted to understand approximately 5 key trends. They wanted to understand the job to be done. Why would an enterprise, around these trends, what would an enterprise need? Why would it need it? And what are the solutions they're basically using now and why consider using? So the trends were scalability, brand consistency and control, collaboration and workflow management. And then there was a big one around security and privacy. And then the onboarding. This was very much a very standard plug and play. You register, you go and do what you wish on the platform. And they wanted to know, how much does an enterprise want that versus do they want customer success teams? Do they want support, training, onboarding? So they spent a significant, not as much as the other business, they spent a significant amount of time really trying to understand, what would this be if they change their business, or if they add this specific package, what does that look like? Why should we do it? Who should we do it for? And really thinking about, is this a global business requirement that someone's willing to pay for? And how would they provide that seamless piece? So they spent a
Yeah.
lot of time going and interviewing the actual people who purchase, the buyers, the users, and the teams who would be collaborating and utilizing this, and really understanding, interviewing the current customers, so the users, B2C, the small, medium companies, and also interviewing the enterprise to really see what's the difference here. Are we going to ruin our product by trying to bite off too much? Or is there something really magic here that we have something, if we create an evolution of it, does it really solve an unmet need? So they spent a lot of time really understanding the why and the how they would do it. And they developed out an enterprise package. It has advanced features. It's very much designed for and with large organizations. So there was a lot of co-creation and collaboration. It has very different functionality, different features. When you're on it I use the platform very frequently as a business owner myself, so I'm not in the enterprise. So the first time I got to see the enterprise piece, I was quite shocked at the user interface. The UX is still very beautiful, but it's a completely different experience, rightfully so.
Mm,
So they are
interesting.
not just taking pieces and reshaping and making it look different. They really understood how the businesses would need the integrations with their other systems, processes, how it would all work with the full tech stack. What is an actual dedicated support and training require? So it's people are enabled to very quickly use it and get going rather than being bogged down, having to learn or having to understand how to use this. So it's an absolutely fascinating one. Similar again to case study one, taking the time before they jump into anything to really understand the why and the nature of the beast, and should it be
Yeah.
done? Why should it be done? often we see an opportunity and we run at it long before we've really ever even done a
Yeah.
SWOT or a TIEs on it.
It's fascinating, especially you get into the enterprise world. Maybe a third of the whole challenge is just getting the product right, but then the other two thirds is the how does this bigger company engage with it, and how do you right size that?
Yeah.
That's the challenge. You've created something that works, but it only works in your little world, and until you start talking to the actual people in it, and unfortunately, what you learn is like, oh, this isn't as simple as we thought, and it's not just one team that uses it, it's 5 teams. And these 5 teams don't always work together so
No.
seamlessly, right? So, how do you accommodate that in a platform? Because you can't be frustrated by how big enterprises use it. You just have to create workarounds so that every person who does have a seat at the table gets what they need so that you
And
can get what you want, which is ultimately, a subscription or a big contract.
And it's also taken into, for the enterprise, the cultures are so different. If you're working with the team in Korea versus in Germany versus America, even how they interact with each other and the dynamics. So your platform has to really understand how globally the culture of the
Yeah.
team will work and make
Yeah,
sure
it's funny.
it enables.
I was gonna say I worked on a couple of intranets, like, so this is the internal platforms that people
Uh,
communicate with. I've had one organization that, like, the name is so important, we have to get the name right. Then I have another organization that has said, "I don't wanna name this thing, it's too controversial. We'll never get it right, and we'll never agree on it, and the project will be delayed by a year." So they have, like, the out-of-the-box branding for their solutions. It just fascinates me how culture is something that you cannot neglect. As much as it
no,
doesn't make sense, it absolutely makes sense, and you have to design for that, otherwise you can't implement a
no.
solution.
And we're also irrational. Very often people think being customer experience centric or doing CX is we'll run a few interviews or we'll send out a survey and we'll read that. And it's without understanding the behavior that is actually driving, you can get very fixated on one piece of information that isn't, it's just a statistic or a piece of data. It's not an insight. And you see a lot of companies really changing their whole approach based on pieces of data that really should have been pulled apart, investigated, and double checked before people jump in.
Yeah, beware the focus group
Yeah.
where that one customer says something that you're inspired by. I mean, I've seen it work good in bad ways,